A real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit in current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. And let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance-related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Well, I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money. I personally work with you, even if you don't have any needs today. Save this number in your phone for future reference. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, of course, we're celebrating today. We celebrate every day on Ron Siegel Radio. National Women's Physicians Day. Okay. Chaplains Day, Missing Persons Day. I don't know. I'm looking at the list here, and I see it's also Freshly Made Mini Donuts Day. Okay. I'm gonna go with what I really like here, and it is National Carrot Cake Day. That is my favorite, and I am sticking to it. My favorite of all the desserts. And having been a little oversized or a lot oversized, yeah, I like carrot cake. I like desserts of any kind. Hey, let's take a look and see what the markets are doing today. Where are the markets at? Let's see. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is now down 154 points. The S&P 500 is down 50. NASDAQ down 240. Oil's down 7 cents a barrel. And we're watching everything right now to see what's driving all of this. Do we want to even look at gas prices? Okay, I like looking at them just because it makes me cry. No, I'm not getting emotional. I'm not getting sentimental. I'm just realizing that I live in the formerly Golden State and realizing, now it's pretty brown. Not just because of the fires, no. But, what we've done with the water, and you go through the Central Valley out there in the San Joaquin Valley, a lot of brown out there when it used to be all kinds of fruits and vegetables. Could you imagine what more leverage the president would have on the tariff front if we were growing our own avocados in California, if we were growing more of our own vegetables, fruits? Because it always was until Gavin Newsom, the agricultural capital of the world. But, we are where we are. Current price, gasoline, $3.09 a gallon is the national average. I'm sorry, 309.8. So call that 310 is the national average. Here in the formerly Golden State, we're now at 447 is our average for a gallon of gasoline. 447 is the gallon of a gasoline. No, that's not. No, we want to go. Yeah, ow. 447. A year ago, we were at 456, so we're a little bit better there. Yes, last week we were at 445, so jumping around. I did notice that the proposed tariffs, and we're going to stick with the term proposed tariffs because they may or may not ever happen. So the president said 25% on Mexico and Canada. And on Canada, they're doing 10% on energy. Now, I have already seen the news today. Yes, the news is already out. President said the tariffs would go into effect tomorrow. But the president of Mexico already called and had a conversation with President Trump. And they've got a 1-month pause on the tariffs both ways. Then 10,000 troops going to Mexico's to our southern border, Mexico's northern border. 10,000 Mexican troops going over there. So do tariffs work? Well, there's some action. And should I say it? Yeah, what the heck? Governor Trudeau, maybe some people will say Prime Minister Trudeau. Governor Trudeau of Canada, he's already been on the phone with President Trump today, and they've got another appointment to chat this afternoon. I think it's 3 o'clock Eastern time, noon our time, and we'll see what happens there. Are they going to find some common ground to avert the tariffs? Would not surprise me. I just a student. Now, remember, I've shared with you before, tariffs are punitive. What happens is in a free society, the money, the purchasing just goes to where it's cheapest. So if they add 25% tariffs to Canada and all of a sudden India is cheaper, well, the purchases go to India. If Mexico is cheaper, they go to Mexico. It's so that they're punitive. They may not be inflationary. But here's the issue is even if they were inflationary, would that be bad for the home market? Well, we don't want to see the inflation come. The inflation is not good. We're not looking for inflation. Our issue is we really want to just take a look and see, how do we circumvent it? How do we, unfortunately, in the real estate world, bad is good and good is bad. Just the facts of life. Bad is good, good is bad. So when the economy is bad, well, interest rates go down. When the economy is good, interest rates go up. But when we can talk about the mortgage minute in a little bit, I'm going to share a secret with you that not many people know about that's happening right now when we're talking about interest rates and maybe a year in this situation. How long have you owned your home? That's going to be the question that I'm going to pose to you on that subject. Hey, did you watch the Grammys last night?
Such an idiot.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I just look at the Grammys and any of these other woke shows. You know, it bothers me. My wife likes them, so we have them on in the background. I am not a fan. You look at them and you just say, okay, I can predict every one of them. Now, you know that I'm in Southern California. Josh drives the show. He's the one behind the scenes doing everything. He's in Vegas. Now, I can predict the outcome of almost every one of the award shows, every one of the categories. It's kind of like red. If you had the option of playing red and black on the roulette wheel, that's about my accuracy level on the outcome of every one of the categories. Look for the most DEI finalist, and that's who's going to win. I mean, you really think about it. Beyonce won the award for Country Album of the Year. Now, if you listen, she said that her album wasn't even country, yet she wins the award for it. Does that make any sense? Am I the only one missing something here? I don't get these things, but you just have to wonder. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, we got a great broadcast lined up for you today, and it might even get better now that Josh is back in the hot seat over there. So, real benefits of buying a home this year. Mortgage rates 101. We're going to do part 7 and part 8 today. Getting deep. Securitization and mortgage-backed securities. And we'll give you an overview. And as we get ready for our Fire Survivors show that we're going to do tomorrow, protect your home, protect your wealth, why a home inventory is essential. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you missed any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio.
Your home and mortgage connection.
As the economy slows, do you know anyone worried about job loss? At Siegel Lending Team, we offer the Home Select Loan. Think of it as a financial superhero cape for homeowners with good income and credit. It not only saves your home, but also throws a life ring to your credit score. Because who needs stress when you can have peace of mind? Let's secure your future with a smile. Visit rsrhomeselect.com. rsrhomeselect.com. NMLS 217037.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message. And I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial when you're ready for that next home loan. Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And every day at this time, OBMMI. They provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry. Calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. They don't tell us points paid, points received, or the APR. They tell us the number you put in your mortgage calculator if you want to find out what your principal and interest payment will be. Now, here's the issue. If you don't have a mortgage calculator, grab our mobile app. It's free to you. rsrlinks.com/mobile app. rsrlinks.com/mobile app. On Friday, conventional 30-year fixed, 6.843. That was down. Jumbo 30-year fixed, 6.984. That was up. FHA 30-year fixed, 6.501. That was up. VA 30-year fixed, 6.373. That was down. USDA 30-year fixed, 6.523. That was down. If you want our thoughts about the market each and every business day morning, as early as the data allows, rsrlinks.com/market minute. rsrlinks.com/market minute. What's going on in the markets today? Well, now that we've got some pauses and a little more clarity on tariffs, the Dow Jones the S&P 500 is now down 51 points. It has seen some improvement on the day. And we're looking at the 10-year Treasury. That's down 4 basis points at 4.522. The mortgage-backed security, that bond is up. When the bond goes up, the rate goes down, but it's only up 6 basis points, so it's not going to have much of an effect. We'll continue to watch that for you. What's driving the markets, though, today? Well, it's all about the tariffs and what's going on with Canada and Mexico. If you put in place, there would be a blanket 25% tariff on goods imported from Canada and Mexico, with the one exception being 10% tariff on Canadian oil. Does that surprise anybody? Most of the response from the media and economists has been negative and fearful that this would cause big disruption in the U.S. economy. Earlier this morning, the director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, explained the administration's point of view. Hassett explained that this is a drug war, not a trade war, and that we have a fentanyl and cocaine problem flowing in through our borders. Over 100,000 people died from fentanyl alone last year, and the administration is looking for our neighbors to clamp down on that or face tariffs. If you take them at face value, there's certainly a moral case to be made. There is a lot more fentanyl that comes in through Mexico. At least that is documented. But Canada is considered the world's largest unpatrolled border. The numbers we received on drugs coming in are only those seized. So the amount actually pouring in is likely much more. Additionally, it only takes a few specks of fentanyl to kill someone. So any amount is terrible. Thus far, the market is not focusing on the inflation potential of these tariffs and is pricing in the impact it could have on our economic growth. As a result, stocks risk on assets are much lower while bonds are moving higher. Yields are sharply lower. The story is moving quickly, though. As I told you, we've already got a 1-month pause for Mexico, and conversation with Canada. It's amazing when you want access to the U.S. economy, the U.S. buyer, the U.S. consumer. It's amazing how people change their thoughts. The 900, you don't want to poke the bear. Apparently, they've been able to poke the bear without any problem. ICE housing data, ICE reported that their appreciation data for the month of December, showing that home values rose 0.2% in the month following similar growth in November. Home values also rose 3.4% year over year, which was a modest uptick from the previous report. It's usually a slower time of year for housing and appreciation, so the modest 0.2% rise is to be expected. We'll likely see these numbers pick up in the coming months. This week, we got a lot of numbers coming out. We've got the JOLTS report tomorrow. That's a job opening and labor turnover. We've got mortgage applications and the ADP jobs report on Wednesday, initial jobless claims on Thursday, and the big gorilla, BLS jobs report, comes out on Friday. That's the mortgage minute. If you're wondering or wanting to know about a home loan, give me a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Our friends over at Geneva Financial. That's the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. Again, when you're ready for that next home loan, give us a call. So what is the super secret idea when it's coming to mortgages? And this is something that nobody talks about. So you all know that when you're looking at a mortgage amortization table, the overwhelming majority of your mortgage payment comes out is interest at the early years. And as you're going over time, you're paying more principal and less interest. Now, it is front-loaded. The interest is all front-loaded, which is why the Home Select loan is so good, because you pay the principal first. That's the beauty of it. That's why it pays off so much quicker. And that's why we're starting to do some case studies so we can really demonstrate to people what the beauty of the loan is. So here's what I want you to understand is when you look at your loan, if you've been making payments on, say, a 15-year loan for, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years, or a 30-year loan for 5 or 10 years, all of a sudden you're starting to make more principal payments, so the dollars that you're spending on interest are lower. And I say this to you all the time, and it's hard to really explain it verbally and on air, but I do anyway, is you got to look at the dollars. Don't worry about the mortgage rates. The interest rate is one thing, but dollars. The Home Select loan actually has the highest interest rate of any loan that we do at Geneva Financial. Now, Geneva is one of only like 3 companies in the country that do the Home Select loan. It's a 30-year mortgage with an offset and sweep account built into it. 30-year mortgage with a sweep and offset built in. So you're paying your principal first, and you pay that down through the sweep account on a daily basis. So your interest dollars are diminished dramatically. And you got to go through the simulation and see all these things. And that's why I tell you, go to rsrhomeselect.com, rsrhomeselect.com, and you can actually see all this. But the reason I bring that to your attention is when you're looking at so many people having mortgages that are below 4%, and I know it's like 70% of the market, saying, Ron, even though I want to move to be closer to my kids, or I want to move to the beach, or I want to move to the desert, or I want to downsize, right size, whatever that might be, get out of California, get into California, whatever it is, they're looking and saying, I've got this interest rate that prohibits me from doing anything. Well, the interest rate should not be the determining factor. The dollars of interest expense should matter, because you can't do anything with an interest rate. Your future can't go anywhere with an interest rate. It doesn't work that way. So what I'm suggesting is look at your statement or give us a call and we'll do an analysis for you. And let's look at what your dollars are and where that's going and how would that impact what your goals and objectives are. Remember, as a certified liability advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management, we're looking at everything through the lens of return and liquidity and safety. Is your principal safe? Now, over the last, 6 months, 8 months, we've learned how risky home equity is, because the people in Palos Verdes, the people in Rancho Palos Verdes, in Pacific Palisades, in Pasadena, in Laguna, they've all found out that, something? They've got properties, they might have a lot of equity, but they don't have liquidity. The Home Select loan, I just did a scenario, and we're working on a case study. And anytime we do a case study, it's actually on live clients that we're talking to. This was a high net worth individual, didn't have a lot of savings. His savings was through his house, and great income, more than 99% of the population. And we looked at it, and we're looking at where his loan would have been taking like 25 years to pay off. If we use the Home Select, it's going to pay off in 6 years. And I think it has an effective interest rate of under 3%. Why do I look at the effective interest rate? Because what we're looking at there is what's really coming out of his pocket. He was cutting his mandatory payment down by about 65%. What would it mean to you if you had to cut your mandatory payment down by 65%? And he was going to add like $1.2 million in liquidity. So his equity is safer because he can write a check anytime he wants for that $1.2 million of liberated liquidity. Now, he's not paying any interest on it until he uses it. If he doesn't use it, it sits there as a safety net, right? If he loses his job, can't work. Now, he's an attorney that's self-employed, so he's not likely to lose his job. But think about that concept, $1.2 million in liquidity. He could pay on his mortgage for the rest of his life without ever writing a check. Throw that out there for you. I most likely for the rest of I don't know how long he's going to live. He's 67 or 68 years old. So it's a beautiful thing. But you got to look at the Home Select loan. It is the best loan on the market if you qualify. And if you don't qualify, at least you understand it. We can put you on a game plan to qualification. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, the real benefits of buying a home this year. Mortgage rates 101, part 7, securitization and mortgage-backed securities. And as we get ready for tomorrow's show on fire survival, protect your home, protect your wealth. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you missed any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Confused about the home buying process? Or curious how much you really know about buying a home? Take the First Home IQ quiz to test your understanding of buying a home. Created by the nonprofit First Home IQ, this 5-minute quiz will give you a score, what you missed, and why. Take the quiz in 5 minutes at rsrlinks.com/FHIQ and find out what you need to know about buying your first home. That's rsrlinks.com/FHIQ.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions, as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com. rsrmoney.com, the real benefits of buying a home this year. That is the subject today. Have you been wondering whether you should keep renting or finally make the leap into home ownership? It's a big decision. And let's be real, renting can feel like the easier option, especially if buying a home feels out of reach. But here's the thing. A recent report from Bank of America highlights that 70% of prospective buyers fear the long-term consequences of renting, including not building equity and dealing with rising rents. Maybe you're feeling that too. Concerned about renting might leave you down the road, but still unsure if you'd be able to buy right now. The truth is, if you're able to make the numbers work, buying a home has powerful long-term financial benefits. Let's break down why home ownership is worth considering in 2025 and beyond, and how it can help set you up for the future. Buying builds wealth over time. Buying a home allows you to turn your monthly housing costs into long-term investment. That's because, as shown in data from the Census and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, home prices tend to increase over time. If you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials, or the ABC News and Talk AM 1490 or FM 98.1 video feed, you are seeing a chart of home price appreciation since 1988. It's a nice looking chart. Rising home prices directly benefit homeowners. That's because when you own a home, you build equity, meaning your home ownership stake in your home grows as you pay down your mortgage and your home's value appreciates. And that, in turn, makes your net worth grow too. Maybe that's why, according to the National Association of Realtors, NAR, 79% of buyers believe owning a home is a good financial investment. Renting comes with rising costs. Renting may feel more affordable in the short term, especially right now with today's home prices and mortgage rates. But the reality is, over time, rent almost always goes up too. Take a look at the data and you can see that play out. According to the census data, rents have significantly increased over the decades. Look at that chart. At least over the last, 3-4 years, it's flattened out a little bit. I mean, it was on a steep trajectory for a long time. This means if you decide to rent, you'll likely face growing expenses each time you renew or sign a new lease, and that'll happen without building any wealth in return. Plus, those rising costs may make it harder to save to buy a home down the road. Renting versus buying, the long-term impact. When you own a home, your payments are an investment in your future. Renting, on the other hand, means your money is gone for good. It helps your landlord build equity, not you. Renting works for those not ready or able to buy today, but if you're able to make the numbers work, buying a home builds equity and sets you up for long-term financial success. So even though renting may seem easier now, it cannot match the benefits of home ownership. Bottom line, if you can afford it, take control of your financial future by making home ownership part of your plan. It's an investment you will not regret. You want to see what starter homes available in the market? Give me a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. I'm happy to put you in touch with agents in your marketplace. That makes sense. We can also get you on our mobile app, and we can put a home search in there for you. And just remember, as a certified liability advisor, we help families build wealth through strategic debt management. That is the real-time real estate segment brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Borrow Smart segment today being brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com. Let's see what we've got for you. Mortgage Rates 101, Part 7, Securitization and MBS. MBS is mortgage-backed securities. Key concepts that we need to understand: securitization, mortgage turned into bonds. Securitization makes rates lower and allows them to follow other bonds more closely. There are few ways investors could address the unpredictability problem associated with consumer behavior. They could either buy so many mortgages that their average loan lasts for an average amount of time, or the industry could create a standardized product that accomplishes the same goal and offers additional protections. Here comes the mortgage-backed security, also known as the MBS. Those are what groups of similar loans turn into in order to be sold or bought and traded. This process is known as securitization. To understand securitization, let's consider a hypothetical scenario. 20 investors each buy one mortgage with a $200,000 principal balance. One of those loans will pay off early and the investor will lose out on interest they would have otherwise collected, i.e. they'll lose money. Conclusion, 19 investors made good money, one investor lost good money. In that example, there was no in-between when it came to lender profitability and no major differences between the 20 underlying loans. It was luck of the draw getting stuck with the one consumer who decided to sell or refinance. The other 19 investors are glad it didn't happen to them, and they'd be willing to give up a fraction of their profits in order to make sure it never happens to them. They'd love to have a way to equally share the risk, to have a 100% chance of a small loss opposed to a small chance of a big loss. Securitization makes this risk sharing possible. Using the example that we just shared, here's a simplification of how it works. The 20 loans are all evaluated based on a set of standards that ensures a certain level of similarity. Loan amounts in certain range, credit scores over a certain amount, all loans used to purchase primary residence, all borrowers within a certain range of debt versus income. An agency that specializes in verifying all of the above steps, them with a seal of approval that allows them to go into one pool of mortgages. That pool is now one big mortgage that allows investors to buy smaller chunks. If the average loan amount is $200,000, then the same 20 investors could spend the same amount of money and buy the same 20 mortgages, only this time they'll share in the loss of one out of 20 mortgages pays off early, and they'll all benefit from the high likelihood of 19 out of 20 remaining profitable. Moreover, by spreading the risk out and using past precedent, they can reasonably estimate that 1 out of 20 will pay off early and adjust their purchase price accordingly. To understand why this is the case, imagine being offered a chance to buy one envelope that had a 95% chance of containing $100. How much would you pay given a 5% chance it would be empty? Now imagine second envelope that had a 100% chance of containing $95. Would you pay more? Naturally, most people and most investors would pay more for the second envelope. By paying less for the first envelope, you'd be like a lender charging more money for additional uncertainty. The point is that more certain lenders can be about risk, and the more evenly it's spread out, the less they have to charge to account for it. In this way, securitization helps rates stay lower than they otherwise would be. Securitization also makes it for a more standardized product. The standardization means more investors are comfortable buying mortgages without personally evaluating each underlying loan. After all, those loans had to pass through the same set of standards from an agency like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the FHA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, etc. Imagine every tangerine at a grocery store being exactly the same. You'd have a really good idea of what you'd pay and what you could expect to get. You can even grab a whole bag of tangerines without having to check each one. A bag of tangerines in that example would be like a group of loans underlying a mortgage-backed security, the MBS. The price of tangerines would be like the price of MBS. If grocery stores had a surplus of tangerines, they might lower the price because you know exactly what you want to pay for tangerines. You'd see the good deal and take advantage of it. You'd be less likely to do so if you had to wonder how those tangerines tasted. Maybe they're on sale because they're subpar. Conversely, if there was a spike in demand for tangerines, prices might rise, and you might only buy them if you absolutely have to buy them. But just like tangerines aren't the only fruit in the produce aisle, MBS aren't the only fixed income investment in town. In fact, there's an undisputed gold standard in the bond market, U.S. Treasuries. Backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, the U.S. would have to be bankrupt in order for investors to not be paid back as expected. Treasuries are the regular old navel orange of the bond market. Just like the supply and demand for tangerines could even be affected by the supply and demand of oranges, MBS prices are influenced by movement in Treasury prices. This relationship between U.S. Treasuries and MBS is at the heart of interest rate levels and movement. Produce aisle would be like the bond market. Investors want to buy a certain amount of bonds for certain reasons, just like grocery shoppers tend to buy a certain amount of produce. Sometimes it's oranges, sometimes it's tangerines, sometimes they're just not in the mood for citrus. So how does securitization affect mortgage rates? Understanding securitization and mortgage-backed securities is important in understanding what moves mortgage rates for a few simple reasons. Securitization turns groups of mortgages into a commodity that can be traded on the open market like other bonds. From an investor standpoint, these mortgage-backed securities, MBS, are very similar to other investment options in the bond market. Thus, whatever causes movement in the broader bond markets tends to cause similar movements in mortgage-backed securities. As MBS prices rise, it means investors are willing to pay more to obtain mortgages. There's an inverse relationship between price and rate. The more an investor pays, the lower a mortgage rate can be. If that's confusing, just think of it like this. Whether you're looking at beginning of a mortgage or the payments over time, there is a cash flow between the borrower and the investor. If the investor wants more money today than they did yesterday to do mortgages, it means they're either charging a higher interest rate or paying your lender less upfront to buy the rights to the loan. By that same rationale, instead of paying more to buy the rights to the loan, the lender could instead lower the interest rate. Either way, there would be a decrease in cash flow to the lender. And as a certified liability advisor, we help you build wealth through strategic debt management. That is the Borrow Smart segment, brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com, rsrhomeselect.com. Sorry, that was Mortgage 101, brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com. Throwing you a curveball, Josh. Mortgage 101, brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com, rsrhomeselect.com. Let's see. When we come back, protect your home, protect your wealth. Why home inventory is essential. We'll talk about that and Mortgage Rates 101, Part 8, an overview and conclusion to this workshop. You can reach me anytime. Off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron. Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions, as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio, or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Borrow Smart segment today being brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com, rsrhomeselect.com. Protect your home, protect your wealth. Why a home inventory is essential. If disaster struck tomorrow, could you prove what you own? For nearly half of American homeowners, the answer is no. Despite the 3 million Americans displaced by natural disasters in 2023, only 47% have taken the crucial step of creating a home inventory. Home insurance is designed to protect you, but if you can't verify your possessions, your claims process may be delayed or even denied. A well-documented inventory ensures that you maximize your insurance payout and recover faster after a loss. Here's how to get started with a smart, strategic home inventory in just 4 simple steps. Step 1, record a video of your possessions. A visual record is the most powerful proof of ownership. Grab your phone and walk through each room, recording everything you own. Be methodical. Open drawers, scan shelves, and check storage spaces. Pro tip, narrate while you record. Describe key details such as item name and description. Like, this is a vintage Rolex Submariner purchased in 2015. Brand and model and serial numbers, important for electronics and appliances. Notable value indicators, like this is a signed first edition of Moby Dick. A detailed video eliminates confusion and strengthens your claim if disaster strikes. Step 2, document the value of your items. Your insurance provider needs to know what your possessions are worth. Gather documents that show their value, including receipts and invoices for big ticket items, make and model numbers for electronics, appliances, and furniture, appraisals for antiques, artware, and collectibles, screenshots of online purchases if physical receipts are not available. Digital backup is key. Scan or photograph your receipts and store them securely online so they can't be lost or destroyed. Step 3, store your inventory safely. A home inventory is useless if it's lost in the disaster you're preparing for. Ensuring your records are protected by storing them securely in multiple locations. Cloud storage, Google Drive, iCloud, Dropbox, all easy access. External hard drive, keep a copy of it in a trusted friend or family member's house, maybe even in a safety deposit box. A USB drive or printed list, store in a bank safety deposit box. This multi-layered approach ensures that even if your home is destroyed, your inventory is safe and ready when you need it most. Step 4, keep your inventory updated. An inventory isn't a one and done task. If you buy new furniture, upgrade electronics, or invest in valuable art, those additions need to be included in your records. Set a reminder to update your inventory every 6 to 12 months or anytime you make a major purchase. Bonus tip, ask your insurance agent if they have an inventory checklist. It's an easy way to stay organized and ensure you're not forgetting anything important. Why this matters for your wealth strategy? Your home is one of the biggest assets, and your possessions are part of your financial strategy. A properly documented home inventory prevents financial loss by ensuring a fair and fast insurance payout, reduces stress in case of disaster, theft, or unexpected damage, strengthens your financial plan by keeping your assets accounted for. At Ron Siegel Radio, we believe that smart home ownership smart homeowners don't just buy insurance, they build financial strategies that help protect their home, family, and future wealth. As a certified liability advisor, I help families build long-term wealth through strategic debt management. Protecting your assets, like your home and possessions, is a key part of that strategy. Let's talk about how to safeguard your financial future with smart planning. All you have to do is give me a call at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. That is the Borrow Smart segment, brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com, rsrhomeselect.com. I think we've got time to get this conclusion in. Mortgage Rates 101, Part 8. Let's see what we can do here. It's brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com. This is it. Unlike the first time you fully grasped the Bill on Capitol Hill song, this section will hopefully help you understand the full life cycle of mortgage rates from the sparkle in an investor's eye to the monthly payment being made in order to get the most out of it, what follows. Please make sure that you have watched our previous sessions. What is a mortgage? Part 2 is the basic parts of a mortgage. Part 3 was what is an APR. Part 4, how are they determined? Part 5, what causes mortgage rates to change? Part 6 was locking in your mortgage rate. Part 7, securitization and mortgage-backed securities. And Part 8, right now, the overview. Mortgage rates begin with you. Either you don't have or don't want to spend the cash to buy a home outright, so you'll need a loan. You could get other loans from other places, borrowing against a 401k or a life insurance plan, for instance. But for the vast majority of people, a mortgage is the only viable option. You have now created demand in mortgage marketplace. You're willing to take on debt and pay interest over time. You are what many investors are looking for. The investor is a broad term. In fact, if you have investments that are managed funds like 401ks, and if those funds have a fixed income component, it's quite possible that a percentage of that fund is allocated to bonds that are backed by mortgages. In that sense, even you are a part of the investor side of the equation. The important part is that there is money out there looking for a home where it can generate return for investors. Most mortgages become investments via the securitization process. A government agency or government-sponsored enterprise like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac sets certain standards for loans it will insure. The agency also provides a framework that mortgage companies can use to evaluate or underwrite your loan scenario. If your scenario makes it through the agency's hoops, your eventual mortgage is eligible to become part of a pool of similarly eligible mortgages. Mortgages grouped together in this way are called mortgage-backed securities, or MBS. MBS carry guarantees from one of the agencies mentioned above. Guarantees protect the investor in the event that mortgage borrower doesn't make mortgage payments for any reason, and ensure they'll receive all the interest and principal they would have otherwise received for as long as the underlying mortgage exists. A tomato soup analogy. It takes more than 50 independent commercial tomato growers to fuel operations for Campbell's main processing facility, which handles soup, pasta, and V8, among other tomato-based products. Different tomatoes from different farms will ultimately end up mixed together and packed into the same product, provided they meet the standards of Campbell's as well as the FDA. The price at which growers are willing to sell has an impact on what Campbell's pays for the tomatoes. The level of demand on the tomato soup aisle is also a factor. In this analogy, a tomato would be an individual mortgage. A grower would be like a mortgage lender, produces big groups of similar individual mortgages. If those tomatoes or mortgages meet certain standards, they can be sold to someone like Campbell's or Heinz, analogous to a large mortgage investor like Wells Fargo or Chase. This business relationship creates a wholesale marketplace for, quote, large quantities of certain products that meet certain standards, unquote. The big players expect a few tomatoes or loans will be better or worse than the others, but because such large quantities are mixed together, the final product remains very consistent and predictable. If several of the tomato plants from a farm that sells to Campbell's had really awful tasting tomatoes, you would never know it by the time it gets to your table. Whether we're talking about tomatoes or mortgages, loans, the logic is the same. When we have a large number of individual units meeting the same standards, especially when those units are destined to be mixed together anyway, it's easy to establish a standard price at any given time based on supply and demand. It's this price that has the most direct effect on what you'll pay for tomato soup and the interest rate you'll pay on your mortgage. This going rate that big investors are paying for pools of mortgages, or analogy terms, what Campbell's or Heinz are paying for truckloads of tomatoes, is quite simple the price of certain category of mortgage-backed securities. These are essentially bonds with either explicit or implicit guarantees from the U.S. government. That means MBS prices move up and down with a high degree of correlation to the prices of other government bonds or similar lengths of time. The catch is that consumer mortgages underlying the mortgage securities can be paid off anytime, like selling, refinancing, foreclosure, short sale. So they provide less predictable cash flow for investors than U.S. Treasuries, which keep paying the same amount throughout their lifespan. The implication is that average lifespan of a pool of 30-year fixed mortgages ends up being in the neighborhood of 6 to 11 years, depending upon real estate market and whether or not rates drop enough to cause a surge in refinancing. Investors aren't willing to pay as much for loans with cash flow uncertainty. If I have $100 to invest in treasuries or MBS, I'm going to expect a slightly higher rate of the MBS because if a fifth of the loans in the pool of MBS refi or sell, then I'm left collecting interest only on 80. Whereas if I had bought the treasuries, I could be assured of a lower rate of interest for the entire term. This brings us to the first core concept of what drives mortgages. They tend to move a lot like U.S. Treasuries of similar duration. What an investor loses in utter cash flow certainty, they gain in a higher rate of return. If that rate of return looks like a good deal compared to treasuries, demand for MBS increases and effective rate of return falls. Vice versa, if MBS returns look weak compared to treasuries, while it varies over time, the gap between a 10-year treasury yield and the average top-tier 30-year fixed mortgage rate quote has maintained a 1.55 to 2% gap since 2012. More than any other factor, this is the foundation of the first several percentage points of any mortgage interest rate. In other words, take a 10-year treasury yield, add 1.5 to 2%, and that's it. That's the baseline from there. It's really just fine-tuning based on variables pertaining to you and your lender. Lenders vary somewhat with respect to what they can and will offer in terms. This can be affected by profit margin, numbers of employees, advertising, legal costs, and other factors that affect overall efficiency. A lower rate isn't necessarily a better deal if there's a higher risk that something unexpected happens during the course of your transaction. Plenty of mortgage seekers have amazing experiences paying a rock bottom rate to a highly efficient highly efficient operation without getting a ton of one-on-one time with their loan officer. Plenty have had amazing experiences paying higher rates because it afforded a higher level of customer satisfaction. To be sure, some companies are just better than others as they represent a sweet spot that balances the many factors driving the final cost of loans. It's equally true that some loan officers are better than others, even inside the same company. There are several reasons you might end up getting a loan quote from any given mortgage company. Maybe you get several during this process. Keep in mind that mortgage company can only control the rates and fees that it charges. There are other fees associated with mortgages. Frustratingly, it's up to mortgage companies to quote those other fees as well. Some of them are more careful about under promises and over delivering on affordability. Others will attempt to minimize the appearance of third-party fees, the stuff you're going to pay no matter what, in order to give the appearance of a more competitive quote. When it comes to hard numbers, the only basis for direct comparison of one company's rate to another is the interest rate itself and the fees charged by a mortgage company itself. From there, it's up to you to decide how much value to place on trust, customer service, and other non-monetary considerations. That is Mortgage 101, brought to you by rsrhomeselect.com, rsrhomeselect.com. And as always, we ask, set that first radio preset button to come back. Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean for engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.